Hey everyone, and welcome to our London adventure. Today we're diving headfirst into the heart of British history and politics, the one and only Palace of Westminster. Get ready to be wowed by stunning architecture and a history that's as dramatic as a Shakespearean play. We're talking centuries of royal shenanigans, political showdowns, and even a fire or two. Buckle up as we explore the iconic landmark that houses Big Ben, the seat of the UK Parliament, and enough stories to fill a history book. So grab your imaginary monocle, adjust your top hat, optional but encouraged, and get ready for a wild ride through time. Picture this. The year is 1016, and a king needs a palace fit for a king, right? Well, that's when the Palace of Westminster's story begins. King Edward the Confessor, known for his piety and probably some killer banquets, decided this would be the place to be. Over the centuries, this royal residence saw it all. Lavish parties, royal dramas, and maybe even a few hidden passageways, a story for another time. But things took a turn in the 13th century when Parliament decided to move in. From royal playground to the heart of British democracy, the Palace of Westminster has worn many hats throughout the ages. Now, let's fast forward a bit. In 1295, the first official Parliament meeting took place within the palace's walls. It was a historic moment, marking the beginning of a political system that would shape a nation. Imagine no comfy chairs, no microphones, and definitely no air conditioning. Just a bunch of important folks huddled together, trying to make sense of the world, and probably complaining about the drafts. This was the birthplace of British democracy, where laws were made, debates raged, and the occasional teacup was probably thrown. We're just speculating on that last part. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the architectural marvels, political dramas, and cultural treasures that make this iconic landmark a must-see for any visitor to London. Let's rewind the clock back to the 11th century, a time of knights, castles, and maybe a few too many bowls of porridge. It was during this era that King Edward the Confessor, a man who clearly had a thing for grandeur, decided to build himself a palace right here on the banks of the River Thames. This was a royal pad fit for a king, complete with lavish halls, cozy chambers, and probably a whole wing dedicated to feasting. Hey, a king's gotta eat. Little did Edward know that his grand palace would one day become the heart of British democracy. From banqueting hall to House of Law, the rise of Parliament. As centuries passed, the Palace of Westminster witnessed a dramatic shift in power dynamics. While it remained a royal residence, a new player emerged on the scene: Parliament. Imagine the scene: knights clunking in their armor, lords adjusting their fancy robes, and everyone trying to find a seat in a room that probably wasn't designed for such a large gathering. The year 1295 marked a pivotal moment in history when the first official parliament, known as the Model Parliament, convened within the palace's walls. The Palace of Westminster, once a symbol of royal authority, began its transformation into a place where the voices of the people, or at least their representatives, could be heard. Trial by fire, literally. The Great Fire of 1834. Fast forward a few centuries, and the Palace of Westminster faced its greatest challenge yet: a fire so massive, so destructive, that it would forever alter the building's fate. On a chilly October night in 1834, a spark ignited within the labyrinthine network of flues and chimneys, quickly spreading through the ancient timbers of the palace. The fire raged for hours, consuming centuries of history in its wake. By the time it was finally extinguished, only Westminster Hall, the oldest part of the palace, and a few other structures remained standing. Rebuilding a nation's pride, the palace's Victorian makeover. After the devastating fire of 1834, the people of Britain knew they had to rebuild their beloved Palace of Westminster. Enter the Victorian era, a time of grand ambition and architectural innovation. A competition was held to design the new palace, and the winner was a young architect named Charles Barry, who envisioned a masterpiece of Gothic revival style. Barry's design incorporated elements of the original palace, paying homage to its rich history, while infusing it with a distinctly Victorian flair. And let's not forget the most iconic addition to the London skyline: Big Ben. Get ready to be wowed, because the Palace of Westminster is an architectural masterpiece that'll have you reaching for your camera, and maybe your history book. Imagine a building so grand, so intricate, that it looks like it was plucked straight out of a fairy tale. Picture yourself strolling past soaring towers, delicate spires, and enough arches and windows to make your head spin. Every nook and cranny is adorned with intricate carvings, from mythical creatures to historical figures, each telling a story of its own. As if the exterior wasn't impressive enough, wait until you step inside. Imagine walking through grand hallways, their walls adorned with tapestries and paintings depicting scenes from British history and mythology. The Palace of Westminster is more than just a building. It's a testament to the skill and artistry of countless craftsmen who poured their hearts and souls into creating a national treasure. Now let's talk about the star of the show, the one and only Big Ben. Okay, technically it's called the Elizabeth Tower, but let's be real, everyone knows it as Big Ben. This iconic clock tower is basically the rock star of London landmarks, and for good reason. Standing tall at a whopping 316 feet, this Victorian masterpiece is a sight to behold. But Big Ben isn't just a pretty face, it's a timekeeping legend. Its massive bell, weighing in at a hefty 13 tons, has been bonging out the hour for over 160 years. Big Ben isn't just a clock tower, it's a symbol of London, of British ingenuity, and of the enduring power of time itself. The Palace of Westminster isn't just a collection of pretty stones and fancy carvings. It's a language spoken through architecture, a symphony in stone that tells the story of Britain's past, present, and aspirations for the future. Look closely, and you'll notice an array of symbols and motifs woven into the very fabric of the building. The pointed arches and ribbed vaults are classic Gothic features, reaching towards the heavens and symbolizing a spiritual aspiration that defined medieval architecture. The palace's stained glass windows aren't just beautiful, they're like giant illuminated storybooks. Depicting scenes from history, literature, and religious texts, these vibrant windows bathe the interiors in a kaleidoscope of colors. Every element, from the smallest carving to the grandest tower, contributes to a larger narrative, a visual representation of British history, values, and identity. Hold on to your hats, folks, because things are about to get political. We're stepping inside the Palace of Westminster, the beating heart of British democracy, where laws are debated, policies are shaped, and witty banter, or should we say parliamentary debate, flows freely. Imagine a room filled with politicians from all walks of life, each with their own opinions, agendas, and perhaps a secret stash of biscuits under their benches. This is where the big decisions are made, where the future of the nation is debated, and where the art of persuasion is taken to a whole new level. Think of it as a real-life political thriller, complete with dramatic speeches, strategic alliances, and the occasional plot twist that would make Shakespeare proud. Let's take a peek inside the two chambers where the magic, or should we say the debating, happens. The House of Commons and the House of Lords. First up, the House of Commons, where the elected members of Parliament, MPs, gather to represent their constituents and debate the issues of the day. It's a lively bunch, with MPs from various political parties, each vying for the chance to make their voices heard. Now let's head over to the House of Lords, a place of tradition, wisdom, and perhaps a slightly slower pace of life. This is where the Lords, appointed for their expertise and experience, scrutinize legislation, offer their sage advice, and occasionally nod off during particularly long speeches. Together, the House of Commons and the House of Lords form the two houses of Parliament, working together, most of the time, to shape the laws and policies that govern the United Kingdom. Prepare to be awestruck because we're about to step into Westminster Hall, the oldest and arguably most impressive part of the Palace of Westminster. This isn't just a hall, it's a time capsule, a witness to centuries of British history, both triumphant and tragic. Imagine a space so vast, so grand, that it could host a medieval banquet for hundreds, a royal coronation, or even serve as a courtroom for a king's trial. Yep, Westminster Hall has seen it all. Over the centuries, Westminster Hall has hosted countless historic events, from grand celebrations to solemn occasions. As the sun sets and shadows lengthen within the Palace of Westminster, one can't help but feel a sense of mystery, a whisper of history echoing through the corridors. This place, steeped in centuries of drama and intrigue, is said to be haunted by the ghosts of its past. Wander through the dimly lit hallways and you might feel a chill down your spine. One of the most famous ghostly residents is Guy Fawkes, the notorious plotter of the Gunpowder Plot. A visit to this iconic landmark is sure to leave you with a sense of wonder. Okay, we've talked politics and history, but let's not forget that the Palace of Westminster is also smack dab in the middle of one of the most exciting cities in the world, London. Step outside those grand doors and you're instantly swept up in the city's energy. Imagine strolling along the Thames, the palace's majestic silhouette reflected in the water. You might catch a glimpse of a royal barge gliding by or spot a family of swans gracefully navigating the currents. It's a scene straight out of a postcard. And speaking of postcards, don't forget to snap a selfie with Big Ben. Who knows, it might just chime for you. The surrounding streets are a photographer's dream, with iconic red phone booths, charming pubs, and hidden alleyways just waiting to be explored. But the real magic happens when you least expect it. A street performer captivating a crowd with their music, a group of friends sharing a laugh over fish and chips, or a spontaneous dance party erupting in the street. Hey, it's London, anything goes. The Palace of Westminster isn't just a political stage, it's the heart of a cultural extravaganza. The surrounding area is a melting pot of art, music, and entertainment. Trust us, you won't be bored. Ever dreamed of seeing a Shakespearean play in the shadow of a royal palace? You're in luck! London's theater scene is legendary, and you'll find world-class performances just a stone's throw from the palace. Feeling peckish? The area is a foodie's paradise, with everything from traditional British pubs serving up Sunday roasts to trendy cafes offering avocado toast with a side of Big Ben views. Don't forget to try some sticky toffee pudding. It's a British classic. And if you're lucky enough to visit during a royal event, hold on to your hats or tiaras. The Palace of Westminster is the backdrop for some of the most spectacular ceremonies in the world, from Trooping the Colour to royal weddings. Okay, history buffs and architecture enthusiasts, are you ready to plan your very own Palace of Westminster adventure? We're talking an up-close and personal encounter with this iconic landmark. No time machines required. First things first, grab your phone and mark those calendars. Guided tours are available, offering a fascinating deep dive into the palace's history, secrets, and those quirky stories you won't find in any guidebook. Who knew politics could be so much fun? Want to witness democracy in action? You're in for a treat. You can actually watch debates in the House of Commons. Talk about a front row seat to history in the making. Just remember, no heckling from the gallery, even if the arguments get as heated as a British Bake-Off final. And of course, no visit is complete without a leisurely stroll around the palace grounds. Take in the grandeur of the architecture, snap some Insta-worthy shots, and maybe even strike a pose with a beefeater. Those tall, furry hats are quite the fashion statement. Let's talk about the unsung heroes of the Palace of Westminster, the dedicated team of architects, historians, and craftspeople preserving this national treasure. It's like a giant game of Jenga, but with history at stake. Imagine restoring centuries-old stonework, piece by piece, like a historical jigsaw puzzle. These artisans ensure every detail, from carvings to archways, is preserved with care. They use cutting-edge technology to monitor the building's health, and those stunning stained glass windows require specialized care, ensuring these masterpieces continue to illuminate the palace for years to come. So there you have it, the Palace of Westminster, a place where history, politics, and a whole lot of British charm collide. From its royal beginnings to its role as a modern-day political stage, this iconic landmark has witnessed it all. We've journeyed through centuries, marveled at architectural wonders, and even braved the bustle of Parliament. But most importantly, we've experienced the heart and soul of a nation, all within the walls of one extraordinary building. So, next time you're in London, grab your umbrella. It's England after all. Put on your walking shoes and make sure the Palace of Westminster is at the top of your list. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop being amazed by the wonders our world has to offer. Cheers!